I don't have the intro music on my phone, so we're going with this instead. You want to go get some tools? I thought I was about to stop there. Wait, how long is this song? Hold on a sec. I feel like I got cheated on that beat a little bit. I thought there was an ending there. Hello everybody. Welcome to Cheesy Corn Sports. I am solo this week. As you can see, Cheney is under the weather. He has the old the itis. So he's not feeling too hot today. So your boy Justin's going to take over. How's everybody doing? If you're tuning in for the first time, this is Cheesy Corn Sports. We're going to go over everything fantasy football related. Touch on a little bit of Heisman stuff today. Might touch on some other stuff. Answering start sit questions, and then yeah. So hop in, tune in with us every Sunday around this time. A little bit late getting the show up today, just because I found out I was going to be going solo. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So first, I'm going to go over. I'll touch on the Heisman stuff a little bit from last night. Maybe touch on a couple of college football notes, and then we can get into the. Actually, may brush over a little bit of the fights. UFC and boxing both went down last night. And then we can get into a little bit of the matchups today on the NFL slate. We'll go over some inactives. We'll go over some start sit recommendations. And yeah, um, might not be too terribly long of a show. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, if you're in here, just be sure to kind of drop your questions as you pop in. I'll be answering any start sit questions that y'all have. So um yeah, let's go ahead and get into it then. So first things first, like I said, we'll go over into the Heisman race, or the Heisman Trophy Award. And as most people probably saw, the winner was Caleb Williams. She surprisingly wasn't that close. Caleb Williams had 2,031 points, 544 first place votes. Then you had Duggan in second with 1,420 and 188 first place votes. CJ Stroud third with 539 total points, and then Stetson Bennett with 349. And then you got the guy that I thought should have been there as a finalist, Bijan Robinson, getting 75 votes. Um, so we'll touch on that in just a second. But first off, Caleb Williams, I do in one way I do feel like he definitely deserved. I'm not gonna say he didn't deserve it. However, I think Max Duggan definitely did more with less. Um, Caleb Williams has one of the best receivers in college football. CJ Stroud also does too. But what Max Duggan was able to do this season with the TCU team that is inferior in talent to those teams was impressive. I mean, TCU being a top 14, I would imagine you would have guessed that USC would probably end up being a top 4 team in the preseason before you would venture to guess that TCU would, just because of the fact that USC had Lincoln Riley going there, Caleb Williams going there. So going into this season, yes, they had a bad season last year, but going into the season that everybody knew that they were going to be pretty good. They were going to take a step up because of Lincoln Riley coming in and Caleb Williams coming in. So everybody kind of knew that they would be good. Nobody expected TCU to do what they did. Um, and one second here, let me check on my sound to make sure my sound's cooking. Let's see what we got. Hold on. Got to do an audio check real quick, guys, just to make sure everybody can hear me. I would hate to record this episode and then y'all can't hear me. So let me see. But yeah, so if y'all have anything on the Heisman Trophy stuff, um, And to my point, kind of what I was talking about earlier. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Let me see. Make sure my audio is good. On the Heisman Trophy stuff. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Um, yeah, but to that. So what I was mentioning earlier, I do feel like either Bijan Robinson or Blake Corum should have definitely been a finalist. Now, reason I say that is because you had Stetson Bennett as a finalist, right? Stetson Bennett threw for 4,000 yards, 20, I think 20 touchdowns and 7 interceptions on the season. Um, those aren't really lighting it up as a quarterback. So Stetson Bennett, yes, Georgia's the number one team in the country. They've been the number one team in the country all year. But we do know that's attributed to a elite defense, and I'm talking about elite. That defensive line has some absolute monsters on it. Um, that team is loaded on the defensive side. Um, and then they have an efficient run game. Stetson Bennett is no more than just an effective game manager out there. The game kind of comes to him. They play the game into Stetson Bennett's hand. So that way they make sure they get him in the point where he can be comfortable. They get that run game established. They get their defense going. That way Stetson Bennett never really has to do too much. Um, all he has to do is go out there, not turn the ball over, be efficient, and get first downs and let the rest of the team do the rest. So Bijan Robinson, on the other hand, I mean, you have Bijan Robinson out here, and his dominator rating, college dominator rating is 34%. So, in case you don't know what a college dominator rating is, college dominator rating is the amount of offensive production your team gets solely on you. What would they lose productivity wise without you? Um, Blake Corum was, I believe, at about 22%. And then you had Bijan Robinson at 34%. So he was 34% of Texas's offense this year. He had over 2,000 total yards, and he had one more touchdown total than Stetson Bennett had as a quarterback. Stetson Bennett had 20 passing touchdowns, and then Bijan Robinson had 21 total touchdowns on the season. To me, Bijan Robinson is the best player in college football. And you can make an argument Marvin Harrison Jr. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. is Bijan Robinson, right? Bijan Robinson probably going to be in the draft this year. So no doubt Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the top going forward. But this past year was Bijan Robinson. And I don't know what it is nowadays about the Heisman Trophy being almost the best QB award when they already have that award. Um, the Heisman Trophy should go to the best player in college football, and that was Bijan Robinson. I mean, Caleb Williams is good, yes. Caleb Williams is a great story more than anything. If you see the trajectory of the award, right? We went from Stroud and Bryce Young, you know, Alabama, Ohio State, and then those teams kind of, they had a couple off games. Those teams kind of, Ohio State and Alabama, they are what they are. They're good. And so they kind of lost their luster after a couple of bad games with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. But then you have this Hendon Hooker coming in and bringing Tennessee up to the top four. And then there's the storyline, right? Hendon Hooker. And even then, it felt like Hendon Hooker was a little bit overhyped. Tennessee was a little bit overhyped. And it turns out they were. And Hendon Hooker, that storyline lost its steam, and Hendon Hooker kind of fell back a little bit more. And then he ended up getting hurt ultimately. And then Caleb Williams had that late push late in the season. And it's all about timing, right? It's all about timing. Caleb Williams came in late in the year, and he had his moment, quote unquote Heisman moment late in the year, albeit, he lost in the Pac 12 championship game. But those last, few weeks of the season, especially, he went scorched earth on everybody in those last few games. I remember vividly I would say about 3-4 weeks before the last game of the season, USC was struggling in the first half. He went into the sideline and then he gave them basically he laid into them and they never looked back from there. That team was completely different from then going forward. So that speaks to his leadership ability. I just don't believe Caleb Williams. I mean, I believe he deserved it, but I think Duggan probably should have won it. Okay. Anyways, oh yeah, back to the Bijan thing. So the college dominator rating, just to put that in perspective. So Saquon Barkley had a 32% college dominator rating, and Bijan Robinson's is 34%. Now the highest I remember seeing is 50% from Christian McCaffrey, but we all know Christian McCaffrey on Stanford. That team was literally Christian McCaffrey, and that was it. So, but yeah, just to put in perspective, Bijan Robinson is going to come into fantasy next year. Bijan Robinson's immediately going to be RB1 or RB2 next year in fantasy. So, if you have not had a chance to kind of look into Bijan Robinson, especially in a dynasty league, if you're in a dynasty league, I highly recommend that you go brush up on your Bijan Robinson knowledge and try to get the 101 because whether you're in Superflex or whether you're in 1QB leagues, Bijan Robinson is going to be the RB1 or RB2 next year immediately. Of course, situation dependent, but Bijan Robinson is one of those players that he will outplay his situation. Cream always rises to the crop when you have talent like that. Look at Brees Hall. Everybody thought with the Brees Hall, the Jets were going to be a terrible landing spot for him, and you know he ended up getting hurt, but before that, he ended up taking over that backfield. So, yeah, Bijan Robinson, I still believe he should have been Heisman finalist. He was my favorite. I knew he wasn't going to make it there. I knew he wasn't going to win. But even in the Hendon Hooker, ordeal with him, Hendon Hooker kind of taking over. I said back then I had Bijan Robinson second in my Heisman standings. So, all right, so that's a little bit on the college football side of things. Not too much to touch on there. Transfer portal, as everybody knows, is kind of going wild. There's not a whole lot to follow along with at the moment. Just because not a ton of people. I mean, we have a few people joining teams here and there. A ton of people just kind of still dropping their hat in, but those dominoes are going to start falling very, very quickly. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get over into the NFL slate of games real quick. So I'm going to pull up the games here, and I can look at the lines and see what I think are some good betting lines and stuff like that on these. So, first and foremost, we'll get into the 1 p.m. slot and 1 p.m. Eastern slot. New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. So we'll hop into this one first. Okay, so Bills minus 9.5. And if you watch a show before, you know how I feel about lines that big. Minus 9.5, money lines minus 466. I'm staying away from both of those. We do have, and my phone is going crazy. Hopefully, it's probably fantasy news, so I can hopefully get us some inactives. Yeah, so Saquon Barkley playing. Got a lot of injury updates here that I'll probably run through in just a second. Yeah, ton of stuff coming in about actives and inactives and stuff like that for the games today. So yeah, I'll run through those briefly here in just a second. But yeah, Bills Jets. I think we all know how that should go. However, we know lately the Bills have been really up and down for whatever reason. Yeah, it's been a interesting few weeks for the Bills, but I do know the Bills to me are the best team in the NFL. I'm still holding to that, regardless. Hang on 1 second. Okay, cool. So we do have Sauce Gardner, of course, out on Diggs. However, Sauce hasn't shadowed anybody this year, so it's not one of those situations where Sauce is going to be shadowing Diggs out there. Whoever they line up over Sauce is who he's going to cover. Derek, I firmly disagree that the Saints are the best team. That they would be if they could have gotten me some points to Taysom Hill last week. I needed the points and I didn't get any because that offense is horrible. But yeah, what's up, Derek? Thanks for hopping in. But yeah, so Sauce Gardner really isn't going to shadow anybody. We know Sauce Gardner is absolute lockdown, but Diggs last time, I believe, got 95 yards against them. I'm sorry, against the Jets. And partially because he didn't have the greatest day over Sauce, but he had a good day overall just because, like I said, Sauce ain't shadowing nobody. We got Josh Allen, and then in the backfield, it's going to be interesting to see who leads that backfield. As we saw previously, what was it? Hold on, let me hop in here real quick. Some more inactives pouring in. I just want to make sure that there's nothing huge that I should be worried about putting out. Okay, nothing noteworthy yet. Okay. So yeah, but it's going to be really interesting to see if James Cook or Devin Singletary hits that backfield the majority of the snaps, because as we saw last week, James Cook had his best game to date as a pro, 43% of the snap share. So his snap share went up from, he was at 17% week 10, 25% of the snap share week 11, 18% week 12, and then 43% in week 13. And with 43% of the snap share, he was the RB13 on the week in PPR. 14 carries, 64 yards, almost 5 yards a carry, 6 targets, 6 receptions for 41 yards on 43% of the snap share. So I would be really interested to see how he kind of progresses into this week. It's gonna be interesting to see. Derek, they're lacking the QB spot. Take Ian Book at this point. Very true. Do y'all have any idea what's your draft positioning going to be? In that, hang on 1 second here. So Lamar's out, by the way. Everybody probably already saw that. Lamar Jackson's out. So we got a question here. Pick 2. Jamal Williams. So personally, I'm taking Ramondre Stevenson, and I'll say Ramondre Stevenson is my first one. The thing about Jamal Williams, right? With Jamal Williams, the man vultures touchdowns. It's very risky having an option who's touchdown dependent. So I would say, me personally, if I'm doing Swift or Williams, I would probably go Williams, and I do believe their game is going to be high scoring. Of course, it's Detroit. So I would go, me personally, I will go Swift. Williams and Stevenson on that one. And I want to look at what Williams' snap share ended up being last week. But it's an interesting situation there when you have 2 startable running backs weekly. It's also kind of frustrating though, because you would like them to go with one or the other. So Jamal Williams last week, touchdown. He vultured 1 touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown got tackled at basically the 1-inch line, as he typically does, and then Swift kind of came and vultured that one. The thing about Swift is, he's not running very efficiently. He's averaging like 3 sub 4 yards. I keep switching about Williams. Thing about Williams is he's averaging sub 4 yards per carry, which that is a scary thing. So again, very touchdown dependent. And then we look at Swift snap share, right? So Swift actually has had the majority of the snap share. He had 51% of the snaps last week. 14 carries, 62 yards, an average of 4.4, 6 targets, 4 receptions. And he finally, and he got a touchdown too. But it's just so hard to tell with those four or with those two, just because you got Williams who vultures touchdowns, and you got Swift who's going to get the majority of the touches. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I do think this is going to be a high scoring game, and I do think Jamal Williams could potentially snag a couple touchdowns. So it's more so floor with Swift, upside with Jamal Williams, in my opinion. But I'm definitely starting Ramondre Stevenson. I feel like the Patriots are going to kind of just try to slow this game down, really control this. So they might go heavy with the run game. Because again, Arizona likes to play fast. So I think they might be doing anything they can to limit possessions and try to slow this game down a little bit. So hopefully that answers your question there. Derek, Eagles have our first round draft pick this year. At this point, they'll have number 4. Oh, that's right. Damn, that's tough. Yeah. Embarrassment of riches there for the Eagles, huh? Like, damn. Top record in the NFL. I don't think they're the best team, but they have the best record in the NFL, and then they're going to go out and get a top. Yeah, y'all need to start winning some games so that doesn't happen. I really don't want Philly to go get a top 5 pick and load up a little bit more on that team. That's the last thing we need. All right, cool. So let's get back into the games here. Derek, you got any fantasy leagues you're in this year? All right, Jets Bills again. Sauce, not too worried about Stephon Diggs. Diggs is going to get his. We all know that. It's interesting to see the backfield play out. James Cook, Devin Singletary. That if you have James Cook, Devin Singletary in your league, it's tough right now. Again, James Cook took the lead in that backfield last week. Singletary, we know what he's capable of, but James Cook has looked better. When he's gotten touches, when he's gotten opportunities, I feel like James Cook has looked better. So it might be one of those things where they invest in the young rookie and start getting him some more touches there. Isaiah McKenzie, yeah, that's if you're in a position to start Gabe Davis or Isaiah McKenzie, again, this might be tough for them. Because at some point, Sauce is going to be on one of those 3 guys, whether it be Diggs, McKenzie, and Davis. I trust Diggs a lot more than I trust McKenzie and Davis to go out there and get points on him. And I think Diggs only ended up matched up with Sauce 5 times or 6 times last time they played. So that means it's going to be heavy on Davis, McKenzie probably. And then you got, Dawson Knox, who's Dawson Knox, just the tight end position in general. It's not Knox. The tight end position in general this year has been brutal in fantasy. You either got Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, or you're just hoping and praying that for some reason you get some points this week, because it's been an issue all season where we got tight ends that are probably, let's say the general point total, actually probably a good point total you can expect from your tight ends is between 5 and 10 points. Average is probably 5. But any tight end, I feel like right now, besides Kelce and Andrews, can get you 0 any week. Never felt this much lack of confidence in the tight end. This is why I don't draft tight ends. If I can't get my hands on Kelce or Andrews or Kittle, typically, I'm not drafting a tight end. In the early rounds, I'll draft one late and I'll stream tight ends in the season. And this is why. Spending early draft capital on a guy like, Gesicki or something like that, it typically doesn't pan out for you. And the tight end position as a whole is so the drop off between the first 2 and the rest. It's they all play about the same, honestly, especially this year. So I don't really spend too much time worrying about drafting a tight end unless I can get my hands on Travis Kelce. Then it's 100% worth it. He said, I'm in 2, picked up Huntley for Baltimore as my QB while Fields is on bye. Carr is my other QB. Gloria didn't play him this week. Yeah. Carr that was not a good game. What do you like 8 points fantasy wise? Yeah, that was tough. Huntley for Baltimore. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Huntley is definitely a good QB to run that offense when Lamar's out. Um, but damn, like Lamar's getting a lot of heat for his play this season, but I mean, Lamar is really doesn't have anybody to throw to right now. Oh, you got 3 in yours. Oof, that's tough. Lamar doesn't have anybody to throw to right now. I mean, he's got Andrews, but without Bateman, I do think they get Dobbins back this week. So that'll be good. But without Bateman out there, and then he lost, of course, Marquise Brown in the offseason. Man, then even Andrews is dropping passes. I mean, he's putting stuff on the money, and even Andrews is dropping the passes out there for him. So it's I mean, the man can do so much. But I mean, Lamar again still elite, but yeah, I'm curious to see what Huntley can do. Hopefully, it's one of those situations where the backup QB comes in and just does, you know, they're not prepared for Huntley and really don't have much of a scheme for him, and he can come out there and just kind of dot him up a little bit, get you some points. Are you in a playoff hunt? All right. Yeah, Bills are going to win over the Jets. Over under is 43, and the Bills have been bet up to -10. In a game with a 43-point over under and the spread is 10, yeah, that's a big no for me on that one. That is probably the game I would least like to bet on spread wise. Cleveland versus Cincinnati. So Browns versus Bengals. First game back for Deshaun last week. Deshaun Watson, my least favorite person on the planet. Deshaun Watson looked horrible last week, and I'm glad he did. However, Texans are too bad to take advantage of a abysmal performance like that because our defense gave up 0 touchdowns, but our offense gave up 3. Offensive special teams gave up 3. We had a fumble, scoop, and score, pick 6, and a punt return for a touchdown that gave the Browns basically all their points except a field goal. 2 field goals. 27-14 was the final. Man, I'm telling you what, Kyle Allen, that dude is what's a nice way I can put it? He's terrible. That's about as nice as I can go with it. That was painful to watch last week. The fact that we even were able to get 14 points scratched up is beyond. Pierce right now. Pierce is can't run the ball because I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit back and drop back in pass coverage for Kyle Allen? No. I think Davis Mills is going to get the start this week against Dallas, but we'll go into that when I get in the Texans game. But yeah, the Browns, honestly, Deshaun Watson's probably going to play bad again. I don't expect Deshaun Watson to really get in a rhythm anytime this season. I don't expect him to be fully back to himself until probably a few weeks in the next season. 2 years out of the game, it's a long time to be out of the game. And I mean, honestly, if he never comes back and if he never plays well again, I actually wish that. I hope that he never plays good again. And I hope the Browns, for being the low moral team that they are, for giving that man $230 million, just eat that money. But I digress. So yeah, Bengals 4-point favorites. Actually, a fairly light spread in my opinion. I do think the Bengals could be anywhere up to -6. So yeah, exactly. He's been out for 2 years, a lot of rust. Again, as much as I hate the guy as a person, he's a top as pure talent wise, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. When he was with the Texans, he was, I mean, honestly, I thought if he was on a better team in a better situation, he would have been probably in talks as the number 1 QB in the NFL. I mean, it was all Mahomes because Mahomes ended up in the best situation. Mahomes ended up in the best offense with the best team around him. I mean, you put Deshaun on that team back then. Deshaun, to me, I think that team's better with Deshaun. You know, but yeah, a lot of rust to break off there. 2 years is a long, long time with no game time. So over under on this one's 47 and a half. We got the Browns 5-7, Bengals 8-4. But the biggest thing, Bengals are 9-3 against the spread this year. Bengals offense is moving. Mixon's probably back. So Samaje Perine had a great week last week though. You got Jamar Chase back. They're probably going to try to get Jamar Chase a little more involved now. His first week back from injury was last week. T. Higgins, of course. T. Higgins he came into his own this year, learned to use that big physical frame of his to be able to go out and go up and get balls. And then, he's a mismatch. When they got their ones on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is just a mismatch for any two out there. That's the only wide receiver combination that's better to me than Chase and Higgins is Tyreek and Waddle. But even that, that's arguable. So me personally, but like that duo is hard to stop. And then you got Tyler Boyd there. It was one of those things where that offense started a little slow and everybody was kind of panicking, but we all knew they'd get it rolling. And now that Jamar Chase is finally back again, I expect them to finish the year extremely, extremely hot. All right. Now we're going to go over to this painful. Oh, yeah. Betting on that one, I would definitely take the Bengals minus. I would definitely take the Bengals -4 on that one. I don't expect Deshaun to have a good game, which is why I'm surprised this is only -4. It's in Cincinnati. The weather looks good. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why the Bengals can't win this by a touchdown or more. So now we'll move over into the most painful game that's going to be for me today is the Texans and the Cowboys. So Texans 1-10. I'm sorry, 1-10-1. I will give us our tie. The spread is 17. Now I do believe we're going to get our asses whooped, but a 17-point spread in the NFL, I would rather just throw my money and donate it to my Caesar Sportsbook than actually lay money on that and feel that's stupid, because a 17-point spread, double-digit spreads. The money line is -1950. Okay, minus. It's almost -2,000. What is that? 20-1? That's actually absurd. I am ashamed to be a Texans fan right now. Now, I will tell you the reason why this is even this steep. I mean, we're terrible, of course, on top of that, but we're out Nico Collins. So not only are the Texans terrible, our two best receivers are out. And so outside of that, we got probably a practice squad receiving core. So that would explain why it's -1950. Over under is 44.5, because, and that's another reason I don't like this spread with Dallas in particular. If it was Miami, maybe, but with Dallas in particular, because I think Dallas is going to definitely try to get out there and control the game like they typically do with their defense and their run game. Zeke, when he runs over, I think it was the stat was like 14 times they're undefeated. I think they're definitely going to get out there, get off to an early lead, and then they're going to try to probably establish that run game a little bit. Texans might, I feel like this is one of those games with this big of a spread where the Texans just might backdoor cover it towards the end. They might be down, 35-7 and backdoor it with a couple touchdowns, garbage time. So that's always the risk you run with this one. As far as fantasy goes, we are automatically starting CeeDee Lamb Derek Stingley's not playing in this game. So, I mean, however, I know Derek Stingley's out, but Derek Stingley was out last week as well. He's been out for a few weeks actually. And honestly, like I've been overall, I've been pretty impressed with Desmond King out there. Desmond King has been playing out of, and him and Steven Nelson just have kind of stepped it up lately. That right now, Desmond King is rated as the 19th best quarterback, according to PFF. 73.8 grade, which is really good. So his defensive grade 73.8, pass rush grade 85.5, coverage grade is 70, run defense 76, just pretty solid across the board. Which is wild because his PFF grade last year was like a 50. The dude was a complete liability last season, and just the turnaround he's had this year when we've needed it has been great. Yeah, fifth round pick out of Iowa, and just came out the first couple seasons, played really well. Was kind of average from there, just continued to regress, and then this season he's kind of brought it back into form. So impressive stuff from Desmond King. Of course, I'd rather have Derek Stingley out there on CD, but Desmond King, I think he can go out there and he can at least cover Lamb to where he's not going to get hopefully not get 3 touchdowns on us. I think it's going to be a heavy dose of the run game because Dallas is going to get out to a quick early lead. So, yeah, I would not touch that spread. I got a question here. So full PPR, Godwin. So Godwin, Waddle, Swift, Zeke, Wilson, and White. So White's tough for me just because I have White in my league, and with Fournette, I'm afraid there's going to be one of these weeks where Rachaad White might actually not perform well. I mean, ever since we've been starting him, he's been doing a damn good job. Rachaad White, to me, honestly, should be taken over. I mean, he should have the majority touches in that backfield, in my opinion. So, I definitely like Waddle, of course. With Waddle, Waddle to me is an auto start, especially against the Chargers. Chargers defense is extremely suspect. So I like Waddle. Godwin's going against San Francisco. That's the only thing I don't like about that is this matchup. So what else we got? We got DeAndre Swift, Zeke. Definitely starting Zeke. I'm a Texans fan. I can tell you what, we don't stop the run to save our lives. Dallas is going to be up. They're going to be up early. They're going to be up big, and they're going to be running the football. So I would go Waddle, Zeke. I'm sorry, and then it's between Jeff Wilson and Swift for me. I'm venturing to go Swift just because he took 53% of the snaps last week. Jamal Williams' snap share went down. Swift's went up. The only thing about the Lions' backfield is it's frustrating because Jamal Williams kind of vultures touchdowns. However, I think their game's going to be a very high-scoring game. Swift is the pass down back. He had 6 targets, 6 receptions last week, I believe. So I would go Waddle, Zeke, and Swift out of those for those 3. So that is my choices there. I have Rachaad White, and I'm also I'm putting him on the bench this week. Just kind of want to see what he does this week. So, but yeah, I think Zeke's going to have a hell of a game. Yeah, Zeke might venture into, depending on the snap share between him and Pollard, but Zeke might venture over into RB1 for the week territory. So outside of the Chargers, I think we're the worst run defense in the league. So, yep. Hopefully that answers your questions. If you got any more, feel free to drop them in. If anybody else is tuning in here late, I'm answering start sit questions, so feel free to drop them in for your playoff run or whatever. Try to win your week. So, all right. Pollard again. Yeah, Pollard's a start. Dak Prescott's obviously a start. Zeke's a start. I mean, you're firing up anybody on this Dallas offense today, especially running backs. Um, Dak's probably going to have a fantastic game, I would imagine. He's going to be doing a lot of running too. Not to get off track, but Kamara's having a horrible season at the running back spot. Yeah, Kamara's been extremely frustrating this year for owners. Let me go to Kamara. Let me go to his actual breakdown for the year. I looked at it the other day just to look at the year as a whole. Um, and I mean, you draft him as a top 5 running back, right? But like, so it was this extreme high to extreme low for Kamara for me. So 7.6 week 1, week 3 7.3. I mean, he's been consistently at about 75 70, well, anywhere between 65 and 73% of the snap share, which you like in today in a running back, because they're so running back by committees, and you have the pass down guy, and you have the 3 down guy, and then you have the guy who vultures touchdowns. Looking at you, Jamal Williams. So then he comes out 23, 18, 17, 42. It was the RB1 week 8. And then once he was the RB1, after that, the highest he went was RB18. 9 carries, 8 carries, 12 carries, 7 carries, 12 carries. He went from averaging about 4.6 yards per carry to averaging less than 4. His carries have been 3.4 yards carry, 3.3, 3.2, 3.5, 1.8, and 2.17. Yeah, it's been a rough go for Kamara this year. I do believe that has a lot due to their offense. But I also do believe it has a lot to do with Kamara's. I do believe age comes in concern, because my thing with fantasy running backs, right? Here's always been my note. My key note with fantasy running backs is running backs peak in fantasy, typically statistically, is between years 2 and years 5. Okay. Running backs on their rookie contract between years 2 and 5, that's their sweet spot. So once they get beyond that, that's when we start venturing into uncharted territories, where you can have a guy who's a late bloomer like a Derrick Henry, or you can have a guy who just falls completely off the map. Let's say like David Johnson, something like that. It's around that 25-year-old age, where the drop typically comes, unless you're a freak like Derrick Henry. So I'm wondering how much of this with Kamara is due to offense and how much of it is due to ability. I don't think it's majority ability. I think it's majority of that offense. I don't think he's as good as he's been. I don't think he will be. I think he'll probably begin to regress. He's 27. He's going to be 28 next year. So I do think he'll be regressing. However, I don't think this is the end for Kamara. I still think Kamara is going to be a top 15 fantasy PPR back over the next 2 years. I'd probably venture to guess over the next 2 years he'll be a top 15 back combined between the next 2 years. But they got to get a quarterback. They got to get an offense. Otherwise, he's not going to do anything. It's similar to Pierce. Like, look at Dameon Pierce, right? He came out and lighting the world on fire, just running with his pants on fire, man, just running over everybody. But the Texans were kind of able to move the ball a little bit, throwing it. I mean, we've been terrible offensively the last few weeks, but we were fairly effective with Davis Mills in some points in the past game when we had Nico and Brandon Cooks healthy. But with Kamara, I think this is very similar because Pierce here lately hasn't been able to run. And then I do believe that Kamara is in kind of the same situation, although Kamara does get more passing downs, which helps him. Pierce is not a receiving running back. So Henry Jacobs saving the season. Saints offense used during the passing game, so they can't get anything established run. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When they're both mediocre, similar to the Texans, like I said, you're not going to be able to get a run game established without the pass unless you are Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a rare breed that runs to set the pass up, or and Derrick Henry is the type of player that when I say that, he's the type of player that can do it with subpar line play. Like you got San Francisco, right? They run to set up the pass a lot of times. However, they have schematically and the old line, just that team is built right to succeed in the run game. Put anybody in that backfield, I feel like they can succeed. Sorry, but Christian McCaffrey there is just that's not fair. Okay, so let's move over to the next one, Houston, Dallas. That's going to be like I said, that's going to be a bloodbath. Hopefully Houston backdoor covers, but again, if you're betting on that game, I don't recommend betting on that game. Bets out of this game, there was a couple bets I like. If you're into the betting thing, I do like the Zeke over 67.5 rush yards. And I also like him over the 76.5 total yards, rushing and receiving. So with Mills, I like the over 0.5 interceptions. And then I'm avoiding Pierce's line because the Dallas defense is good and Pierce has been struggling lately. So anything to do with Dameon Pierce, stay away from that. All right, let's get over into the Minnesota game. Let's see what we got here. So inactive-wise, let's see if we got any updates on the inactives just real quick in case y'all need to pull anybody out of your lineup. Yeah, Lamar's officially inactive. We knew that. We saw that coming. Amari Cooper is active. So Amari Cooper is going to be in for the Browns. In what type of capacity, I do not know. Trevor Lawrence is active. Again, he got banged up, got that knee twisted up last week. Saquon, he's active, but it's a neck issue. He'll play. I don't know with a neck issue, man. Those are so easy to kind of. At one point, those are very easy to re-aggravate, and on the second, if you re-aggravate a neck injury, I don't care how minor you think it may feel, that's pause for concern, and that might be pause for them to pull him out of the game. But if you have Saquon, you're firing him up no matter what. That's just a little bit of a scary part coming down to the wire here. So Saquon, Trevor Lawrence, Amari Cooper, Zay Jones. Zay Jones is also active. J.K. Dobbins is active. So RIP Gus Edwards there for a little bit. Outside of that, Vikings inactive. So Harrison Smith is out. So Detroit. That's going to help out Detroit a little bit. So like I already said before, I feel like Detroit's offense has been your must starting everybody. Jameson Williams not yet. Jameson Williams he's still kind of getting back into the game rhythm here. So he was very limited last week. I don't know really if they're going to fully open him up this year. So Jameson Williams is a wait and see. But Harrison Smith being out, Amon-Ra St. Brown, we already know Amon-Ra St. Brown, what he's going to do. That man's going to go out there and get 10 targets, 11 targets, 9 catches. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. I don't care what anybody says. So Giants inactives, Adoree Jackson is inactive, David Sills. Nothing noteworthy there. Cooks and Stingley inactive. Nico Collins inactive. Leighton Vander Esch is active. It's unfortunate. So yeah, okay. So nothing really noteworthy there. It's nothing too crazy. What we kind of already knew, J.K. Dobbins was going to be playing. Lamar Jackson was going to be out. And then it's just making those official. Detroit versus Minnesota. Again, so Harrison Smith is going to be out, which is going to help the Lions here. The spread on this one is actually Detroit's the favorite -2, which I'm perfectly okay with. The Vikings are the absolute worst 10-2 team I've ever seen in my life. They have won every game they've won has been 1-1 score. Outside of the Packers game. Yeah. I think the Packers game week 1 might have been the only game that they won by more than 1 score. Outside of that, every game beyond that has been 1 score. It's been so their adjusted record actually is 6-6. So yeah, based on the normal odds of winning a 1-score game, and based on the games that they played, their adjusted record is 6-6. They're 10-2, 6-5, 6-5-1 against the spread. This team is a 6-6 team at 10-2. There's no questions in my mind as to why the Lions are the favorite here. Also, with Harrison Smith out now, that line might get pushed a little bit more. I am 100% okay with taking Detroit money line here, or spread here. I do believe that the Lions are getting healthier. Jameson Williams coming back. Hopefully he can get a little bit more snaps this week, get a little bit more into the offense. But if you have fantasy players in this, play them. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been absolutely absurd this season. I traded DK Metcalf. In my Dynasty League, I traded DK Metcalf for Amon-Ra St. Brown and a first round pick. And that was the best trade I ever could have made. Amon-Ra St. Brown this year. Let's just dive into his numbers a little bit here. The only thing that kills me with Amon-Ra St. Brown is his ADOT. His average depth of target kills me. Because, for instance, last week, 12 targets, 11 catches for 114 yards, right? If you get one of these guys, let's say Amon-Ra St. Brown's average depth of target, let's say it's 3.5 yards. Well, you get one of these guys like a CeeDee Lamb or Jalen Waddle where their ADOT is 9+. If they get 12 targets and 11 catches, they're going over 200 yards. That's the only frustrating thing about Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it doesn't matter. We found out that Amon-Ra St. Brown is matchup proof. He is offense proof, which means no matter who's in his offense, he gets his targets, whether it was Hawkinson there. Everybody said when Hawkinson came back last year, when Amon-Ra St. Brown went on his run at the end of last year, everybody said when Hawkinson came back that and this season that Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to take a step back. I'm telling you what, I've bet Amon-Ra over 6.5 receptions for the last 4 weeks, and I've won every single time. So you know what I'm hitting this week bet wise? Amon-Ra St. Brown over 6.5 receptions. Yeah, no doubt. Amon-Ra St. Brown over 6.5 receptions. I don't care until even if he loses me money one time, I'm still betting that. He's good for double-digit targets every single week. DeAndre Swift, yeah, we kind of already talked about that backfield. So when it comes to Williams and Swift, bet-wise, I am avoiding. However, both are startable options. On the other side, we got Thielen and Cook. Thielen has been solid for a 32-year-old receiver. He's about what you'd expect. Justin Jefferson. That's all I need to say there. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins, high-scoring game, not in prime time. He's probably going to get numbers for you. If you have QB out, or if Kirk Cousins is available, which I don't know if he would be, you streaming QB, Kirk Cousins is a good start this week. TJ Hawkinson's probably going to be a good start, although the Detroit doesn't do too bad against tight ends. That's one thing that they do well. So yeah, I will take Detroit -2 there. Jacksonville versus Tennessee. We'll get into this a little bit. Jacksonville, again, Zay Jones, active. Let's see here. Let's see. So we have, yeah, it looks like everybody in this game noteworthy is active. So Titans going to go heavy dose of what they do. You know, Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks has been really good for them, but Treylon Burks is out, so that's tough. So that means what? Robert Woods is going to be their wide receiver one now. And then you got Westbrook Akine, who's been. I mean, he had a good game there, but Westbrook Akine is not a guy that you're really banking your offense on. So this game is going to go. This will go as far as Derrick Henry will take them. Tannehill's look solid, but again, yeah, they're without Treylon, this wide receiver core is just it's horrible. I depending on the health of Trevor Lawrence, I almost like Jacksonville in the upset here. However, with I don't know with the extent of Trevor Lawrence's injury. They've been a little bit coy on that. But so any more inactives? No, we're still looking. Okay. Okay. If you have Seattle running backs, it says they're going to start Tony Jones Jr., not Travis Homer. So Tony Jones Jr. over Travis Homer. So Tony Jones Jr., let's see what kind of how many leagues he's rostered in here. So Tony Jones is rostered in, well, this is Dynasty, but he's rostered in 47% of Dynasty leagues. That's going to be much lower in regular PPR leagues. So again, Tony Jones is going to get the start, not Travis Homer against the Panthers. So if you are in need of a running back, or if you were planning on starting Travis Homer, Tony Jones is an option. However, just because he's starting doesn't mean that he's going to get the higher workload. We all know that Pacheco, his first week when he became the RB1 in that offense, he still didn't have the majority of the touches there. So, but that's just something to note. Let's see. All right, cool. So yeah, Jacksonville. I have if Trevor Lawrence looks like Trevor Lawrence, I do think that the Jaguars will pull the upset in this game. -3.5 spread. I think the safer bet would be betting Jacksonville to cover the 3.5, just because Treylon's out. The over/under is 41.5. So with an over/under that low, and I would almost venture to bet the over in this. But with an over/under that low, I'm typically, more often than not, I'm betting to cover. Saying that my fantasy app said Jones is sort of Homer. Yep. Jones over Homer. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get the majority of the snaps or the touches, but it is something noteworthy, because you got to have pause now if you're starting Homer expecting a heavier workload. Eagles Giants. All right. So fantasy wise, well, first let's get in the spread. So the Giants +7.5. Money line Giants +265. I like the Giants to cover the 7.5. That's just me. Again, I'm still very hesitant on calling the Eagles the best team in the league. I don't think they are. I do think they have a great systematic approach to winning games. And the thing about them is you never know what they're going to do, right? And this is also the frustrating part with fantasy, because you have, AJ Brown is going to get his. Then you have Devontae Smith. So with Devontae Smith, the push and pull you have with Devontae Smith as a start each week is we really don't know whether the Eagles are going to come out and be run heavy or if they're going to come out and try to pass more. It's very sporadic. Games they pass the ball, Devontae Smith he has great games. Games they run the ball, Jalen Hurts, of course, he always has great games, but it's going to go through Jalen Hurts and, big hefty dose of him and Sanders. So we got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Foster Moreau is going to be lined up on AJ Brown, I believe. I think Moreau is playing, but Foster Moreau is going to be on AJ Brown. AJ Brown, Foster Moreau is on AJ Brown. Yeah, that's not anything that's going to really scare me. Nick McLeod, you got Nick McLeod on the other side. Both of those guys. So Moreau is middle of the pack and coverage. So yeah, AJ Brown, they might go pass heavy here and give AJ Brown just might have a day. Well, he always has a day, but Foster Moreau especially lined up on him. Jack Stoll at tight end, former Husker. So I love Jack Stoll, but you're staying as far away from Jack Stoll as you could possibly get. Let's see. Pick two. Amari Cooper, Garrett Wilson, Jamal Williams. I'm already starting Swift. If you're already starting Swift, so Amari Cooper was a late active. So 100% Garrett Wilson's a start for me this week. I love Garrett Wilson this week. The thing about Swift, right? So Swift took 53% of the snaps last week. My headphones are going right on me. And Jamal Williams' snap share went down. Jamal Williams did not. He's been averaging less than 4 yards a carry. However, we do know he's a touchdown vulture. I hate relying on touchdown vultures though. So if you're in a situation where you need to win, and you can't risk possibly the downside of if he doesn't get his touchdowns, I would go Cooper and Wilson. And also with with the Detroit game, the over/under is high in that game. That game is going to be pretty high scoring. Swift is going to get the majority of the receiving downs, and I would hate to start two running backs on the same team. So I would go Cooper and Wilson there. Again, I love Wilson this week, so that's my take on that. Thanks for the question, though. And thanks for the question, everybody who's hopped in and asked questions. Appreciate that. I'm going to see if I can find anything here on Amari Cooper's official update on if he's going to have a limited snap share, because he was testing his hip before the game. The whole plan was for him to test his hip. So this would be so Cooper's in line to be on a pitch count. Jeopardizes Cooper wide receiver one says could lead more down Peoples Jones. So the thing about this was right. With the pitch count, the thing about pitch counts that are interesting to me is they'll have guys on pitch counts, right? But they'll come out and that hip will loosen up. They'll start getting hot and they'll ride that hot hand. Amari Cooper. When they say pitch count too, they don't know necessarily what kind of snap share it looks like. It looks like during pregame warmups, they're saying he looked pretty good. From what I'm seeing here. He aggravated Thursday in practice. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's missed 5 games in his career with Amari Cooper. The guy's tough, but you got another factor into that is Deshaun Watson with the way he looked last week. But I do think Amari Cooper, I still might be comfortable starting him over Jamal Williams. Again, I would hate to start 2 running backs in the same backfield. But we always have that Jamal Williams touchdown upside. So it's a tough situation for sure. Because technically, I mean, it feels like both of them are on a pitch count if we think about it. But again, I do think the Lions are going to be in a lot of passing downs, and that's been Swift most of the year. Where Jamal Williams has made his living is Amon-Ra St. Brown getting tackled on the 1 or DeAndre Swift getting down there and then him taking the carries. So active, but potentially limited is what they're calling Amari Cooper. So I'll take Cooper and Wilson, but I wouldn't fault you if you stay away from Cooper. I just think he's so tough. Again, he's only missed 5 games of career. I think his toughness prevails, and I think in a situation like they're going to be in where they're going to need to pass the ball, hopefully that game stays close and they can keep him out there. Would you say Seahawks or the 49ers defense? Seahawks, man. Seahawks really irritated me last week because I picked the Seahawks defense over the Browns. But I do like the Panthers matchup with Seattle. So I would say Seattle there. Tampa for me is a little bit Tampa to me is a little bit more of a high upside type of offense. I think we know what the Panthers are. And they're not good. And there's no potential that they're just going to go off and have a crazy day like there's the potential that Tampa could. So yeah, I would start Seahawks. I am starting the Seahawks actually. I am starting the Seahawks defense. Bills defense versus Jets or Pats D versus Arizona. I would say Bills versus Jets. The only thing that irritates me about this Bills defense is actually surprisingly their pass defense has not been very good this year. Pats defense, of course, the Pats defense has been phenomenal. Arizona likes to play a quick pace, but if the Pats can come out and get that game under control with their run game, slow it down. I feel more confident in the Pats versus Arizona. So yeah, go Patriots on that one. If that's the matchup, again, Bills pass defense has been suspect at points. The Patriots defense has been pretty solid, especially across the board against wide receivers. I looked at like their past 3 weeks. They did give up a little bit of a little bit of yards last week, but of course you got to think that's matchup that did that. So yeah, I think if you're wanting to limit the potential bad defensive day, you're safer going with the Patriots. All right. Hope that answered everybody's questions. Again, if y'all got any more questions, feel free to drop them in here. I am answering them up until probably about 30 more minutes, about 5 minutes before the games kick. I'll be answering them. So let's see. Let's get into the next one. Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Again, Huntley starting at quarterback. Pittsburgh -2. The over-under is 36.5. I hate this game fantasy-wise. I absolutely hate this game fantasy. Over-under of 36.5. That's not a good omen for fantasy days. So, you do have your couple guys you're going to potentially start with Deontay Johnson and Pickens on and I do, you're starting Najee at this point. Freiermuth, you're starting Freiermuth and Najee no matter what, and then it's then the Pickens versus Deontay Johnson battle there. But Pickens to me is the best receiver out of those two. So I'm definitely if you're in a situation where you start one or the other, Pickens is the guy for me. But I'm not spending too much time on this game because this is not going to be a good one to watch. That is not going to be fun to watch. I mean, it might be a close game, but it's going to be, low scoring as it gets. All right. And we'll go to the Kansas City-Denver game next. All right. So Denver, for what they've lacked on offense, good defensively. This year, if people get pressure on Patrick Mahomes this year, now I know everybody was talking about him under pressure in the previous years, right? Patrick Mahomes under pressure had this 102 QBR. I'm sorry, passer rating. But Mahomes' passer rating under pressure this year is 69.7. That's terrible. And to put that in perspective against Russell Wilson's is 61.4. So I mean, they're right there in the same tier as far as um throwing under duress. Um, if the Broncos can get some kind of pass rush going and disrupt Mahomes, um, they could potentially cause some fits for him. I do believe the 9-point spread is a little high, especially with the way the Chiefs have been playing lately. Over unders 44. Surprising, I like Denver to cover. I hate Russell Wilson though. That guy's an asshole. He's just corny as it gets. So, um, so yeah, with Latavius Murray, of course, in the backfield there. I'm not a Latavius Murray fan at all. I do believe this is one of those where it's like opportunity dictates the start, and the guy's going to get touches just by the nature of the situation he's in. Again, Latavius Murray, don't like him, don't want him on my team, but you're probably starting him this week if you're in a 12-team league. So, CJ, let's see, Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, you're starting this week. Honestly, Kansas City's defense, um, their cornerbacks are solid with L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed has had a pretty good year, and then Trent McDuffie. Safety wise, safeties are mediocre. Um, D line, really the only thing you got to worry about is Chris Jones. So I'm trying to give any silver lining to the Broncos offense that I possibly can, but doesn't matter how bad the defense is. The Broncos offense is limited to what they are because that team's just trash. And Russell Wilson just sucks. Dulcich, hey, if you picked up Dulcich, good job. I do like Dulcich, honestly, especially in dynasty leagues. If you got him, we think about Marquise Brown coming off his injury. Would you start him? Marquise Brown to me is so when he's played, he's been targeted. I would say probably he's going to be in the 5 to 7 target range. Now the only issue with that is D Hop again is more so in the 14, probably 10 to 14 target range if he's in 6 to 7. So Marquise to me is going to get you probably about 10, 11 points. If 10, 11 points is good for you, then I would start him. But if you got better options, like one of my buddies asked me the other day, Devontae Smith or Marquise Brown, and me personally, I like Devontae Smith more. Again, I don't trust Arizona's offense. I don't trust Kyler Murray at all. But I think Marquise is a good baseline starter if you just need a decent floor. He's good. I think Devontae Smith is a little bit more volatile as far as points goes, but I do think Devontae Smith has the much higher ceiling because, you know, especially with that secondary banged up, I think Devontae Smith could have a really, really big day today. So, yeah, in a situation like that, it's like Devontae versus when you got some of those middling guys around Marquise right now. I definitely want to see Marquise in some action before I start him over some guys in that same kind of range as him. Duvernay or Parker, my only other options this week. Ooh, yeah. I'm starting Marquise over those two, though. Yeah, definitely start Marquise over those two. Tampa and San Francisco. What happened to the Tampa San Francisco game here? And what's our spread looking like? We got a 3.5-point San Francisco spread. Brock Purdy's going to start. Brock Purdy looked like Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, you throw a QB like that in this offense, and they're all going to look about the same. I mean, all they really have to do is manage the game flow. Let the run do its thing. Let the defense do its thing. San Francisco is just a well-constructed football team. And with that, they've been able to produce with Garoppolo and then Purdy, they didn't miss a beat really. So I do think that they're going to be. Um, I don't think they're going to have too much of a drop off from what they normally are. So um, with Tampa, we got Lenny questionable. I don't know if we have any official word on Fournette here. Um, what's up, Matt? How you doing, bro? We just got done talking about Marquise and how bad he is. I'm just playing. I wasn't that hard on him. So nothing, yeah, nothing noteworthy, injury wise. But I actually like the Bucks in this game, surprisingly. I know Brock Purdy's coming off a pretty decent performance, all things considered. But Tampa's got the better offense. Tampa's defense is about middle of the pack. I think they're 17th in total defense. Of course, we know San Francisco's one in total defense. Um, I feel like the Bucks are in a must-win situation, and I think they play like they are, and I think they'll come out and they'll get this game. So I actually like the Bucks over the 49ers in this game, 3.5-point spread. Um, if they can get Tristan Wirfs back, that would be that's where they really need is Tristan Wirfs to come back on that line. So you got Ayuk. You're probably starting Ayuk. You're starting Kittle. Debo automatic start. McCaffrey automatic start. Nothing really. No really big questions here on the fantasy side of things. Defensively, yeah. I mean, you're starting everybody. I mean, you're still starting Chris Godwin. You're still starting Mike Evans. Um, Rashad White, if Leonard is out or if he's limited, Rashad White's a start regardless, I think, in PPR. Because look what he did last week. I do think that he's earned enough of a play in that backfield to I think he should take the majority of the snaps, honestly. Um, but yeah, nothing too crazy in that game. You're frying everybody up basically in that game. Um, let's move on to Carolina versus Seattle. So again, I went over the running back situation earlier. Yeah, Homer's supposed to be the starting running back. It's not looking like he's going to be. However, again, that doesn't mean necessarily that he's not going to take the majority of the touches. I think this is one of those situations where Seattle's going to ride the hot hand. Whoever can get out and get themselves established, that's who they're going to go with. Panthers not good. You're frying up the Seahawks defense. You said Elijah earlier. Carr got me a whole 2.58 points. Yeah, and Devontae still got like what 10 points. Which you're used to 30 from him. So this one, DK, you're confidently starting DK in this one. You got JC Horn out there. Um, but DK, you're confidently starting. He is a freak this year. Goodwin and Lockett, you're starting. Only because across from them they got CJ Henderson, who's going to be on Lockett. For all intents and purposes, the Panthers defense has been okay, um, at moments, but overall, especially in the past game, they've been really bad. The Seahawks pass the ball 63% of the time, so it's probably going to be um, them just nickeling and diming their way down, and I do think they're going to try to find a hot hand between Homer, um, Jones and Homer. So, I do think they're gonna try to establish somewhat of a run game, but I do think that 63 to 36% ratio of pass to run is gonna probably go to more of a closer to about 70 to 30, just with the backfield situation. Seattle's -4. I like Seattle -4. Um, And if you're yeah, somebody asked me earlier if you're starting Seattle's defense. 100%, I am starting Seattle's defense. Um, Geno Smith has been his passer rating was clean 115, passer rating under pressure 89.6. So he has been good all around. And again, I've touched on this before. What makes Geno Smith good, and what may the only thing that scares me about this game is Geno Smith's commitment to the run game. When he's out there, he's selling the run fake. If you watch multiple plays, right, a play action bootleg where he's handing the ball off, and then you watch a play action bootleg where he's holding the ball, it makes them look identical. He sells the run so well, that sets him up for the pass game. So then them guys in the line, the second level, their eyes, they lose their eyes and they lose the ball. And they're put in a situation where they either have to crash to stop the run or they have to get out to stop the boot, but they have to make a decision right there. Um, that's the only part that kinda scares me with this backfield situation is if they cannot establish the run, what does that do to Geno's performance? So, that's something to monitor, but again, DK is, you're firing him up. Alright, so Sunday night game, Miami versus the Chargers. This is a fantasy gold mine too. Miami, um, their offense is, to me, the most explosive in the league. You are probably I think Waddle is a full go. If I'm not mistaken, I don't see any injury designations for him. So you're firing up Tyreek, you're firing up Jalen Waddle. Tua, of course, you're firing him up. Chargers wise, you're in a little bit of a situation here with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Palmer, because Palmer, of course, a lot of people picked him up. Palmer had been a very good fantasy option. I still believe he's a good fantasy option. Um, but now you're in a situation where you have Williams, Allen, like who's the start here? I do think Allen is the number one in that offense, and then Williams and then Palmer. Although I do think Palmer has the ability to be the two in that offense because Palmer is fast, he's very good, and Williams coming off the injury and being a little banged up, I do think that Palmer could be right behind Keenan Allen in points this week. Keenan Allen's just he's an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player where he's going to get you targets, a ton of targets. So the thing about Keenan Allen is he typically is the most targeted player on first down for them, and first down targets are one of the biggest indicators of fantasy points. The guy who's targeted the most on fourth down, first down, I think Keenan Allen is probably 25% is what it was. Guy who's targeted the most on first down typically is the guy who has 20 up to 20% more fantasy points. So it's indicative of a more reliable option if they target them on first down. It's actually a statistic that actually checks out. So Keenan Allen to me is the guy there. Again, possession guy, target guy, but he can also get you yak. And then yeah, Austin Eckler, you know, we know what Austin Eckler is. So yeah, you're firing those guys up. Dolphins, I mean, you're starting everybody in this game. This game is what's the over under this game? 55. I think that's the highest over under of the week. Um yeah, the 51.5 is the only other one that's close to it. That's that one's Minnesota versus Detroit. So yeah, Miami versus Chargers. You're firing everybody up in this one. So and you're loving every second of it too. Um, and then the Monday night game, New England versus Arizona. Cardinals suck. New England's gonna win that game. Sorry, Matt. All right, cool. So any fantasy questions here, anything like that? I am taking still for I'll probably be on for another say 10 minutes. Sorry, buddy. They are what they are. Couple interesting things of note here. Um, Pacheco sneaking his way into the top 20 as far as running backs go. Again, Pacheco is very limited on in terms of his PPR upside because he doesn't really receive much. Jarrett McKinnon's still getting those. The thing about Pacheco too is he doesn't pass block very well. So until he learns to pass block, he's not going to fully take that backfield over because until then, Jarrett McKinnon's still going to be there catching the passes, and then he's going to be in there on run plays too, just because they can't just know every time Pacheco's in there that they're running the ball, and every time Jarrett McKinnon's in there, they're passing because he's the guy who can receive and then pass block. Um, so yeah, with Pacheco, I mean he runs hard, right? But he's very similar to Damian Pierce in my opinion. Just limited upside because of the PPR potential PPR upside. Okay, so what do we got? One running back, one flex PPR. Foreman, White, Homer, Hollywood, and Ayuk. Um, so me personally in this one, so Travis Homer again is not the starter. We had a notification come through, I would say about 15, 20 minutes ago. And Homer's actually not going to get the start. That doesn't mean he's not going to get the majority of the snap share, but I'm probably avoiding that backfield altogether because Tony Jones is going to be the starter in that one. Let's see, Hollywood Ayuk. I'm starting Ayuk, and between Rashad White and Deontay Foreman, I think I'd go Foreman over those two. Again, I'm very wait and see on Rashad White this week, and Foreman's in a pretty good matchup. Seattle's defense actually against running backs, they perform better than average. Against I think they average about 2 to 3 more fantasy points per game against Seattle running backs do. So give me Foreman and Ayuk. I'm starting Foreman and Ayuk. Hollywood again is for me. Hollywood's a wait and see too. With Hollywood, I think he's a high floor. Again, I think he has in the 6 target range, between 6 and 8 targets, probably between 4 and 6 receptions. Yeah, no problem on that, man. So yeah, that's who I'd start up. Thanks for the question, man. Appreciate it. Um, all right, and with that, I am going to go ahead and give my top prediction. Who's going to be running back one, wide receiver one, QB one, and tight end one. And I try not to make it an obvious pick, so I'm trying not to go Kelsey tight end one because I could pick him every week and I'd be right. So QB one for this week, actually like Joe Burrow and Tua. I do think I like Burrow a little or Tua a little bit more, so I'm going to pick Tua as my QB one this week. Running back one. Um, hmm, I like. You know what? Let's go on a limb here and say, let's say Zeke. Zeke, running back one, playing the Texans. I'm a Texans fan. We're terrible. Zeke, running back one, but also Tony Pollard could be running back one. So, um, wide receiver one this week. Give me a hefty dose of Amon-Ra St. Brown, man. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown has been killing it. He was a wide receiver two last week. Um, yeah, give me Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. Wide receiver one. Tight end. Let's see. Let's go Andrews. Andrews has been irritating. I know he's been irritating, but I do think Huntley's going to go to him a lot. I do think Huntley's going to rely a lot on Andrews because he's the best receiver they got. Um, I do think he's going to feel comfortable going to him more than anybody is just a check down the safety net. Mark Andrews, as sure-handed as he typically is dropping a lot of passes lately, which is concerning for me. I don't like that. Also, tight end wise, um, Matt, tell me why the Cardinals will not use Trey McBride more. Trey McBride is a guy that they use their first pick on, not first round, but their first pick, second round pick. Trey McBride, freak athlete. Um, Cardinals starter right now. They invested second round draft capital into him. It's the perfect opportunity to get him rolling, and they don't seem to be wanting to use him very much. I don't understand why, but if you are in a dynasty league, I highly recommend going and snatching up Trey McBride if you haven't already. Another person that I highly recommend snatching up in dynasty is let's see, Jeremy Grant. I'm trying to blank. The Indianapolis's tight end. I think it's Jeremy Grant. I don't know why I just drew a blank on his name all of a sudden. Because I have him in my dynasty league. Mm, or Jelani Woods. My bad. Damn, I don't know why. I just completely drew a blank on Jelani Woods' name. Um, I've loved Jelani Woods all season. It's weird. Jelani Woods, 6'7". The dude, so measurable wise, if you go back and look at Jelani Woods' combine numbers, Jelani Woods is like 99th percentile in most explosive categories. The dude is an athletic freak. Trey McBride is too, but Jelani Woods is just out of this world. The dude's a freak athlete at 6'7". If the Colts could use him more. I mean, we saw what he did 2 weeks ago. Finally, I've been waiting for Jelani Woods to have a breakthrough, just like I've been waiting for Trey McBride these last few weeks to have a breakthrough. But Jelani Woods was the tight end too, in week 12 against Pittsburgh. Nine targets, 8 receptions, 17 fantasy points on 64% of the snap share. But what happens the week after? He goes down to a 21% snap share, tight end 25, 4 targets, 2 receptions. I mean, 6'7", 253. The dude's a converted receiver. Give Jelani Woods the rock. So if you're in Dynasty, 2 people I highly recommend: Trey McBride, Jelani Woods. Neither team has learned to use them properly, but when they do, they are going to be happy they did. Um, is there anything else I would like to venture into? Garrett Wilson. Again, I really like Garrett Wilson this week. If you're a Garrett Wilson owner, fire him up against Buffalo. I know it's Buffalo, but I love Garrett Wilson this week. I love DK Metcalf this week. Um, yeah, it's going to be fantasy is going to be popping off this week in that Detroit game and the Miami game. Those are gonna be fun to watch. Anything else? Any other questions anybody has before I hop off here? Please drop them in before I do. My dog keeps barking outside, so I think he's found some cats or something. I don't know. Dude's a psychopath. Um, let's see. Yeah, and then I do have a quick thing I'll go into here. Just gonna give you my spot start of the week. Um, if y'all hear my dog? If you hear my dog, I apologize. Like, dude's literally a psycho. Later, Matt. Appreciate you. Tell your boys to throw in yeah, next week. So this week was kind of a last second. Martin couldn't show up because he had the flu, so I just kind of had to run it solo. So it's in a situation where I had some notes prepared. And for 2 people, oh, lost video. Cool, cool, cool. Perfect timing. All right. Well, on that note, if y'all can hear me, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the show up. Again, I didn't have my intro music. Derek, can you hear me though? Can y'all hear me? I want to play my outro music. I actually don't have my intro and outro music, so All right, cool. All right, so I can still play my outro music. Cool. I don't have my actual or Cheesy Corn Sports outro music on my computer. That's on Cheney's because he typically runs it from his PC. So if we don't have any more questions popping in here, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Derek, thanks for joining in. Everybody, thanks for the question. If you like the content, like and subscribe. I'm not singing. No, my voice is shot. I've been sick for like 3 months. Um, like and subscribe if you like the content, if you want to hop in for fantasy content each week. And then in the off season, we're also going to be pumping out content fantasy wise. We'll go into some dynasty stuff if you like that. And so yeah, we're gonna be heavy on the content here in the coming weeks. So yeah, without further ado, I am going to play my temporary outro music for the day only. I feel like it was very, it's not fitting, but you know what? I like the jingles. So here we go. Later, guys. Let's go get some tools, guys. It's tool time. Wait, it's not over yet. Y'all thought it was over. It ain't over yet. Although this song does jip us in the end, it doesn't give us the beat drop at the very end. All right, I am out. See y'all later.